Hello, everybody. Gwen Peterson here, creator of Insights and Illuminations. And I'll just throw in, I missed a couple weeks, partly because I was sick, but I'm back. And I had some other things around the house that were, there's pounding and hammering and grinding, and had to miss that show. And last week I was sick. So if I cough, I'll try to edit it out. But I think I'm well enough to muscle through this one for you guys. I appreciate those who have been listening and those who have left comments. If you like what you're hearing, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You'll notice that I have this podcast and then I have other things too. If you look at some of my playlists, I've got meditations you can listen to. I have some classes, free classes that are on there that you can listen to, watch. And I hope you do. I've gotten good feedback on it. So as much as I hope it's helpful, I've gotten feedback from people that said it has been helpful. So thank you for those who give me feedback. Um, sometimes I question the work, partly because, Gwen Peterson just doesn't sit here and say, okay, what am I going to talk about today? And just, pull a rabbit out of my hat and go along. Um, Instead, I get nudged along by spirit. It's a result of all the work I've been doing on myself from a spiritual standpoint, and all leading back to that first day that the first video on this, or the first podcast on this book, It's a Game, is about. That's why it's not behind me right now, because I have it in my little hands so I can talk to you about things, some different topics from it. I'm trying to see if I can't get my pictures lined up here so that I'm not looking like I'm staring at your ceiling or something. So anyway, yeah. So I get nudged along by spirit. And sometimes I'm out of my comfort zone. And this is going to tie real well into the conversation we're going to have today. It takes me out of my comfort zone. I'm not always sure what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, and who it's for. So that's why the feedback's always nice, because then it's like, oh, there are people out there that this was meant for. And so that's always fun. But I always take something away too from it. There's always something in a little nugget, which again is what we're going to talk about today. So let me see. What do I want to say? What else do I want to impart to you? So yeah, spirit will just kind of nudge me along when the event that happened, that fateful day in the car occurred, and I got that big aha, it's a game moment. I started out on my own personal venture, okay, my own personal discovery. What was it? What does it mean? And it was very focused on me, not, oh, I'm going to take this out to the world and share it. Partly because not a lot of people subscribe to that. And I was a little on the fearful side of how I would be taken. And so when Spirit was nudging me to write the book and they wanted me to focus on that very situation, um, I was a little off put by it. I wanted to keep my little secret, and not share it. But I did. I stepped forward because over the years I have learned that those nudges, you may have free will and may try to push them off, but sometimes your soul is the one driving the car ultimately, and the soul will shift your life around in order to meet those goals, even if the avatar you doesn't want to do it. All right. So when I got the nudge to do the book, I I kind of grudgingly stepped into it and started to work on it, started to do some different things. And like I said, it was a kind of an eye-opening experience for myself. And one of those situations was cliches. So when I was nudged to do the book, I wasn't real sure how to even approach the whole thing. I was asking for guidance, and I could feel that where they wanted to go with it was that the book would be more of um, like the instruction manuals to a game. All right. So that you would open it up and it would lay it out real clearly who the players are, what the game board's about, what are the rules you're playing by, and that type of thing. And in doing that, I was like, well, I'm not real sure exactly how and what that would all look like. And so I was feeling this nudge of um, Dungeons and Dragons. Who knew? I was writing one day and kind of contemplating with spirit about, what this would all look like. And I got that nudge and I kept kind of hearing energetically Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, oh. So I asked my daughter about it and she said, well, I said, do you think they have board games at the bookstore? Because I want to go check out Dungeons and Dragons. And she was kind of like, well, ma'am, you understand Dungeons and Dragons isn't a board game, right? And I went to Michigan State University. We had steam tunnels, and I always heard about how kids would go down there and play in the steam tunnels and play Dungeons and Dragons. And, you'd hear all the stories of the kids who disappeared into the ethers and never to be heard from again because they had gotten so caught up in the game that they just went away. They were living somewhere else, living as a dungeon master or something. Who knew? Um, but that was like all I knew about it. I'd never really checked it out, never really explored it very much. So my daughter said, it's not a board game. It's what you call a role play game. Um, there's a lot of letters, and I think I put it in my book. Let me get my glasses so I can see. Um, but role playing is what it's about. It's about people who they get themselves fully and completely immersed in their game. All right, that they dress the part, they know their part, they understand it all. Yeah, RPG, role playing game. Yeah, I had it right. Sometimes I have to double check myself just to make sure. So, yeah, it's a role play game, so the people immerse themselves completely into it. So as she's telling me that, little light bulbs are going on, and I'm thinking, "Oh, well, that makes sense about what this book's about, right?" Because as I'm writing it, I'm understanding, the whole connection between the soul coming into the body, choosing a life experience, that life experience being a certain thing. And we already talked in the second or third video for this podcast. Um, so go back and look at it if you want, because I'm not going to get too deep into it. But your soul chose this person that you are. They knew what color your skin was going to be. They knew what size your body was going to be. They knew what your hair color, or if you were going to have hair, or if it was going to be with you to the end of the game. They knew all that. They knew where you were going to be born. They knew to the parents. They knew your soul knew the whole shebang before, and knew how it was going to play out before your little body became the player in the game. Okay. And yeah, there's, some movement and there's some layering there and stuff that is there. But ultimately, your soul knows this. Your soul came into it and they have the game plan. They know what the situation is. So with the Dungeons and Dragons thing, so I could see that overlay where, your soul's coming in and it's a role play game. Only thing is the avatar it's coming into has this mind, and it wants to do things it wants to do, and, can really suppress and diminish the soul's ability to navigate this game, which becomes kind of the challenge, the level of play, if you will, that you are doing in the game. So Dungeons& and Dragons, I was like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense." So she says, "So it's a book, mom. It's a book that you get. It tells you how to play the game." And so you can see this, right? Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, I get it." And even in that sense, I'm sure Spirit was just laughing. "Oh, look at her. She thinks she's got this figured out." But, I went to the store, got the book, and I'll tell you what, it's a good book, and it's not a book you just read. Like I said, it's, a book for learning how to play Dungeons& and Dragons. It breaks down, the roles that are available and what those roles represent and what you do and how they dress, and it breaks it all down, and this book walks you through the whole thing. And it's very detailed. It's like where my it's a game book is what, 60 pages or some crazy thing as a handbook. Theirs is hundreds of pages. Okay. It's much more, maybe 600 pages or something. I might even list it in here how many pages it is because I gave them kudos. The the people behind it, 300 plus pages. And so this book, and I'll give credit to Mike Merles, I believe is how he pronounces his name. So Mike Merles, he writes in the foreword of the book, the introduction aspect of it. There's and as I was looking at the book, flipping through it, I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to read this book, but I like how it's laid out. I like what it's doing. I like what's all there. So we'll see where this goes. So where I started was reading his foreword, or introduction, if you will, and um, I was struck by it. So I'm putting quotes around this. I'm going to read it out of my book because in my book it's quoted. I give the reference material and everything. I give him all the homage he needs because, yeah, well done, well done. So here's the clip I took. The first characters and adventures you create will probably be a collection of cliches. That's true of everyone, from the greatest dungeon masters in the history on down. Accept this reality and move on to create the second character or adventure, which will be better. And then the third, which will be better still. Repeat that over the course of time, and soon you'll be able to create anything from a character's background story to an epic world of fantasy adventure. Once you have that skill, it's yours forever. And I I was just like, the part of, you know, the first characters and adventures you create will be a collection of cliches. And that's true for everyone. Accept that reality and move on. So that's our topic for today is cliches. And it wasn't enough to read that to myself and get all the little fireworks going off in my head and the ahas and the, oh my gosh, he's amazing. I could, it touched me in other aspects of my life because I could look back and I could see parts of my life where, um, whenever I started something new, anything new, um, it's like you adapt it from other people. You saw so and so over there do such and such, so that's what you did, and so you kind of did that. Whether it's fashion, decoration, home interior, whatever, car, you name it, whatever you've set out to do, if it's new, you kind of borrow from somebody else, and and then there's the cliche. okay, because it's been done before. All right. So there's the cliche. That's where you start out. And then as you fine tune it, okay, so you buy that first car, that everybody's got. And then as you go, you're like, well, this car just really doesn't do it for me. It's too big, it's too small, it's too tall, it's too short, too low. Too expensive, not expensive enough, doesn't have enough gadgets. So that's when you start to go back and fine tune it. Like you said, you go back and you start, the next car is better. And then the next car is better. You do it with your homes. If you're like me, I've lived in many homes, and each one has been different. Each one has had the bells and whistles that I needed at the time. And I've always, adjusted and fine tuned it. I'm in scaling down mode now, before it was getting bigger mode. So it's changed over time. So that was kind of neat. That was kind of a neat idea. I could see where that came up. But then as I was writing the book and I was also doing a lot of classes, I was starting some new classes and stuff, um, working on some different projects. I started to, I started, as I was going through them, started hearing, oops, hands were flying around here. As I was going along, I started to hear the cliche in the background, how that was a cliche. See how this is a cliche? And then it started to kind of morph a little bit, the words of get over it, that you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, you're not going to be perfect the first time out. You're not going to be perfect the first time out. If you're perfect the first time out, you didn't try hard enough. All right, I'll just put that out there. And that was a theme that came back to me too with the whole cliche and not being perfect the first time out. I remember way back when, one of my favorite teachers was Jack Boland from Unity of Naples, Unity of, uh, it was in Warren, Michigan, Unity Church of Today was the Unity Church then. And so Jack, the founder of that particular church, he said in one of his talks, he was talking about how he went skiing. It was his first time skiing. And he had taken some lessons, and then he was out on his own. And he ran into the instructor later on in the day, and the instructor asked him, "How you doing?" And he says, "I'm doing great. I haven't fallen down once." And the instructor looked at him and said, "Well, you're not trying hard enough." He's like, "You need to get off the bunny hill and get out onto another hill. Not crazy hill, not black diamond stuff, but you need to get off the bunny hill." And so that kind of stuff was coming back to me after reading that. And as I was writing the book and working on these projects, I could hear the whole cliche thing of, you got to start, and wherever you start, it's going to be kind of, same old. But as you go more deeper into your work, the more it's going to evolve and become more you. You probably could see it with all of my work I've done. If you go back to the early days of classes and programs I was doing, it's probably a whole lot different than what it is now. Um, and that's good, right? That's how we grow. So that's what it was there, learning that, you're not going to be perfect the first time out. And because of that, sometimes we hold ourselves back. We want everything to be perfect. We wanna look great. We wanna look like we're doing it all the time. We wanna look like, and we'll point our finger at somebody and say, "I wanna be like that person," forgetting completely that this person has probably got 40 years into whatever it is they're doing, which makes them look that way. Um, it's not something you do right out of the gate. It takes time. It takes years. So what the cliche is success, overnight success is 5 years plus or minus 2, I think is the thing, or 7 years, 5 or 7 years to make an overnight success. It just doesn't happen. It's something that people move towards as they do whatever it is they're doing. So this, I guess my big story today for you to play around with is the idea that if you're being nudged to get out of your comfort zone and move into something different, something that you're not familiar with, something that you never really thought you'd be doing, don't strive for perfectionism. Okay. Don't, I've taken on a new quote or a new mantra lately, which is, um, done is better than perfect. Because if you're looking for perfect, it never gets done. Do it. You need to step into it and do it, because I also, like I said, a lot of reflection. Um, when I was talking and looking at all of this, it came to me that I had started, my husband at the time, we had started a business, home improvement business, and we took baby steps in doing it. Okay. We both understood that, you don't wait until everything is exactly right. So we started out with business cards and letterhead. And then we, just slowly added things in. And with each thing that we added in, there was a growing period of it. Okay. So when we added in the employees, there was learning the payroll records and payment and taxes, and all that kind of stuff. So we would learn all that. And then the next thing would present itself, the next step would come up, and we'd step into that, and there'd be a whole learning curve with that, and we'd take our time and learn to do that. And even, as I'm saying this now, it's the same with, um, all the classes and teaching and the way I do it and everything. People who know me, they're like, "I just don't know how you do it. You get this, you do that, brr, brr, brr," all the back end work always kind of shocks them, and I'm like, and they're like, I could, they'll always say, "I could never do all that. I'm not techie," or "I couldn't do that because of whatever." And I'm like, "Trust me, I didn't start out like this. I didn't come in fully formed, knowing all this back end stuff. It just kind of one step at a time, as things presented itself, I would be like, okay, I guess I got this thing here to do." And I would learn it, and then the next thing would come up, and I would learn that, and it would just grow and morph, and things get added in, and more of this and that. And the next thing I knew, people are like, "Boy, you know a lot about all that." And I had to stop and go, "Yeah, I guess I do." Considering at the beginning, I couldn't tell you what a URL was. If you said the back end of, technology, I would think you're talking about the back of the computer. you know? I didn't get any of that. It took time. And so my words of wisdom to you are, it's the same thing in your life. The whole thing with your life is taking it step by step, integrating it. Sure, at first you'll sound like everybody else, or people might not think you're anything special, but as you progress and immerse yourself fully into that, you'll start to make it yours. You'll start to change little aspects of it. You'll start to, um, get more and more, um, uniqueness in it. I'm starting to get, this little nudge from spirit about, religion's the same thing, okay? Christianity, look at how many different branches of Christianity there are, and what those are is just different people's take on the same message. They took one aspect over here and said they were gonna make it theirs, and then they made it theirs by changing it up and this and that. That's, you know, I guess good point. Thank you, Spirit, for dropping that in. Religion is just like that. And let's see what else. So, oh, back to the game. All right. Back to the book about the game, how you're coming at your life. So, yeah, looking at if you want to take the book and you want to start to look at your life from that perspective, that it's a game and you want to play it like the game, then you need to be able to um, be aware of the cliches that'll be there. As you start to go, okay, this is my avatar, which is, like I said in a previous um, video podcast, we talked about that. And I said, get to know your avatar. And I had you write down what that is in the book. It tells you, write it down, look at it. What is your avatar? Who is your avatar? And then start to look at the games you're participating in. Now, what table are you sitting at? And what drama is evoked from that? And then play with the idea that you can change your roles. You know, you can add to your role. Just because you're a purple alligator doesn't mean you have to fit everybody's purple alligator box, right? You can be other things. You can do other things. Um, it's pretty freeing when you start to go there. It's not enough to just say it. It's a belief system you need to start to integrate, and that's kinda where, um, the cliché thing comes into. Starting out as a cliché, it's a little easier to maybe take on certain roles that are real easy to do, and then ease yourself into a deeper part of that role. Um, and with each progressive role you take on and you play, you'll get better at it, and you'll become more defined. So I'm giving you permission to play, to be a cliche, to not be perfect. You know, I'm not saying go out there and do everything wrong, but I am saying go out there and give it a shot at doing something. You know, like this podcast. this, this podcast is a perfect example of it. I had done previously, way, way back when Blog Talk Radio was around. I had been nudged into it. Okay, another story time for you. So, way back when, I got nudged into doing a talk thing on Blog Talk Radio. And I wasn't real sure what the whole thing was. And in fact, I kind of pushed it off. I didn't want to do it. I kept, yeah, I basically just kept telling Spirit, no, we're not doing that. Not going to do that one. And I wanna say it was probably about a year later, someone came to me and this other woman that I was doing meditation work with. She would do crystal bowls, I would do the guided meditation with it, and we were doing it around town and stuff, and we ran into some people. I got to know, this couple that were traveling around the country, getting to know different spiritual communities and this and that. Super great people. Still know them today. They're just fabulous. So they were in town and we got to know them and they liked the meditation work that me and this other lady were doing. And they said, you know, we have this blog talk radio show. We'd love to have you on there, you know, like a Monday or something, whatever. And would you be open to that? And I had totally, yeah, I recognized the name of the Blog Talk Radio thing, but I had filed away. I wasn't even thinking about the nudge I had before. I was just like, oh, yeah, sure. Okay. So we were doing that and we were doing it for a little bit. Something came up and a family crisis had come up for them, and they were gonna have to step away from their program, and they were a little disappointed because they had really worked hard on the program, and really hated to just shut it down to do this. And, I just blurted out, let me step in and help you out. I'll help you out with it. Not a problem." So they were like, "Okay." I said, "Just tell me what I need to do." And they wrote it out, told me what I needed to do. The very first show, I get on there and I turn on the thing, I do what they say, and it clicked. It hit me square in the eye, third eye. I'm like, "Oh, no. This is exactly what you guys are trying to get me to do a year ago." And here I was doing it. And I kinda liked it better this way 'cause the learning curve wasn't as difficult. This time, I was able to, somebody walked me through it, they told me what I needed to do, so I felt more confident in starting my own, and so, from there, I started my own, and over a number of years, I had my own, talk show. But again, that was so long ago. That ended, I moved on to something else, and then here I am. I've been saying it's gotta be 10, 15 years ago. I Here I am now getting this nudge to do these podcasts, and I was like, "I don't know anything about podcasts. What do it just, no, I don't wanna do a podcast." And then it kinda dawned on me. I'm like, "Oh my gosh. I have done this before." I think it was when I decided, okay, something was coming in. I kept getting confirmation to do it. I'm like, "All right, we'll do this. We'll do this podcast on this book." And I was getting on YouTube to try and figure out how to do their studio because I hadn't done the studio. I had uploaded already pre-recorded videos from other things, but not actually gotten on here live like this. So, big breath, got on there, started looking around, watched some videos to see how to do it. And that's when it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, I've done this before." I guess 10 years ago they knew this girl's going to need to be sitting here talking about her books that she's going to be writing, but we can't tell her that just yet. Um, so, yeah, follow your nudges. Okay. Follow those nudges as they come up. Yeah, you're not gonna have a whole lot of confidence sometimes. That's gonna be out of your wheelhouse. You're gonna sweat. You're gonna you're gonna just be anxious and wonder if you can stall it for any length of time. But find a little confidence. Find something that you can put your foot on and say, "Okay, I think I can do this," and then take that first little step. Get used to it, immerse yourself in it, and then start to make it yours. Start to kind of get deeper into it. Again, it's going to look like a cliche. It's going to feel like you're not really doing anything new and different than other people, but that's okay. It's going to come with time. I think I've covered the points I wanted to. I did not bring my point sheet up to keep me on task. So I was pulling from memory. So I think I've hit all my bullet points for you. If I missed anything or caused you to have questions, you can put it in the chat now or later, and I will respond. I see that there's a couple people listening. So if they want to say something, ask a question, I'm more than happy to answer that question as long as it's geared towards this, not some other crazy topic. Um, so in the book, I delve a little bit deeper into the cliche, play with it, make it yours. I'm in the process of writing another book. I think we've got two more. This is the sixth week. We got 2 more weeks left of It's a Game. I'm going to be talking a little bit more on the book, the deeper dive into some of these parts of it. And then, right about the end of this month, I'm going to be releasing my newest book, which is going to be called Meditation Starts with Me. And it will, I have a video on YouTube on meditation. This book's kind of a tangent off of that. I also have on my website, there's a free ebook on meditation that you can visit. It's more of the cliff notes, it's kind of a cliff note thing to the book that's going to be released at the end of the month. And I am feeling nudges that this podcast will continue. It'll take on different names based on different topics. So 2 more weeks of It's a Game topic, and then it'll be on to, I think, meditation. I think we'll move into the meditation thing, dig a little deeper in that because, I do feel strongly about it. It's something that really does, touch you in a deeper way and shifts your life, in ways that you can't really understand until you actually sit down and do it. So I encourage you to continue following me. Like the videos that you like, subscribe to the channel so you can see what's new and exciting there. Visit the website. It's a great place to either sign up for the newsletter or see new courses and classes that are out. I'll keep you posted here, what's new and exciting. Other than that, don't worry about getting it perfect. Okay? Just get it done. Done is better than perfect, right? Love y'all. I hope this was benefit to you. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.